Welcome to the Ascent of Mount Carmel YouTube channel. Let's suppose that there's a guy who has lived in isolation in a rainforest, and he's never heard of or had any exposure to Christianity. Now let's suppose that he suddenly comes to the United States and for some reason or other, he comes to my house and sits down in my living room. He'd probably notice that on my wall I have a crucifix. Someone who's never seen a crucifix and doesn't really understand what it's all about would probably think that's a ghastly thing to have a figure of a man nailed to a cross hanging there. So how would I explain it to him? Well, I'd tell him that the man in that figure is an image of my God. And by nailing him to the cross, his enemies sought to humiliate him and to destroy him. However, he arose again from the dead 3 days later after that crucifixion. And the cross, which was meant to be a symbol of his humiliation, is now a symbol of his triumph. In our earlier video on the scapular, we mentioned that sacramentals are often prefigured in the Bible, and the crucifix is another example of this. In the 21st chapter of Numbers, the Israelites had become weary of wandering in the desert, and the people's patience was worn out by the journey, and they complained against God and Moses. And they proclaimed, "Why have you brought us up from Egypt to die in the wilderness, where there's no food or water? We're disgusted with this wretched food." But the food that they were complaining about was the manna from heaven. It was the heavenly food that God had given to them. And manna itself prefigures the Eucharist. "Wherefore the Lord sent among the people fiery serpents, which bit them and killed many of them. Upon which they came to Moses and said, We have sinned, because we have spoken against the Lord and thee. Pray that he may take away these serpents from us. And Moses prayed for the people. And the Lord said to him, Make a bronze serpent, and set it up for a sign. Whoever being struck shall look upon it, and shall live. Moses therefore made a bronze serpent, and set it up for a sign, which when they were bitten, they looked upon it, and they were healed." When the Israelites looked upon the bronze serpent, they were looking upon a figure of their torment. But when they did so, they were healed. And it's the same thing when we meditate upon the crucifix. We're looking upon a figure of Christ's torment. We are in a small way sharing in his suffering. We join our sufferings to his, and that way we may be healed. For Christ told us that if we are to join him and follow him, we must pick up our cross and follow him. Now, some people might suggest that a plain cross rather than a crucifix would be more politically acceptable. It would be less gruesome. However, to strip Christ off his crucifix would be unbiblical. But we preach Christ crucified. I'm not suggesting that there's anything wrong with a cross. It's a very good and great thing for us to venerate the cross. However, a crucifix is a very good thing because it keeps us from hiding from the horror of Christ's death. It reminds us of the gravity of Christ's commands to us, that there are many things that we must do to pick up our cross. And when we take Christ off his cross, that cross loses some of its emotional impact to us, and it risks looking a little bit similar to a corporate logo rather than the powerful object of devotion that it should be. Well, I hope you enjoyed this installment, and if you did, please feel free to subscribe. We'll be back again soon.